Ignore that noise you hear at night. No, not the loud noises, like police sirens racing down the road near your house at 2 a.m., or those crashing and breaking noises that would announce the presence of some unwanted person in your house. Those you should probably listen to. They're loud enough, even if you normally tune out the sirens like I do, but they're loud for a good reason. They want you to hear them, or you want to hear them. Plus, those sounds are coming from other humans. No, I'm talking about the skittering sound from the hallway that you barely pick up while you're rolling over in bed, barely audible over the shifting of the sheets and creaking of the bed frame. That tiny squeaking that you can barely hear over the noise of the video you played to fall asleep to that's still running hours later, which you guess is the ceiling fan or a mouse on the wall that you thought you killed months ago. Ignore those noises. Now this is much easier when you have roommates. All those extra nightmare noises can be blamed on 2 or 3 people living in the house. The half-asleep assumption is easy to make, and after a time you won't really hear the noises anymore. They just start to fade in the background. That's good. It's better that way. When roommates move out, though, it gets a bit harder, especially at first. Just the knowledge that you're alone may be enough to keep your senses more tuned than normal. Plus, you don't have an easy excuse anymore. There isn't someone else to blame for the slight creaking of loose floorboard outside your room, which seems to come right as you drifted just past the point of no return, when the content of your dreams has begun to seep into the world and blur the line of sleep and waking. The sort of noise that is just loud enough to snap you back awake, as if you've been nodding off in class and the teacher had just called your name. Now you're lying there, trying to figure out what woke you when there isn't any other sound to indicate something's wrong. Ignore those noises. Even when all your senses are screaming that something is wrong, as if you'd just woken up from a nightmare and your brain still hasn't caught back up with reality, ignore those noises. No, you aren't still dreaming. No, you aren't just imagining them either. Like I said, this is harder when you're on your own, but you still have to ignore them. If you can make it seem normal, just roll back over, don't thrash around, or sit bolt upright in bed, or anything like that. That wouldn't show that you're ignoring it. Now would it? After rolling over, if you're lucky, you might drift off back to sleep. That would be best. In fact, you want to be asleep, if possible. Sleep is safe. If you're a light sleeper like me, you might have to do a few extra times each night, wake up thinking that you heard something and try desperately to fall back asleep. That's okay too, because after a while it becomes normal. In fact, if you ever have people in the house with you, it's probably already natural. If that sounds too hard for you, you could also just turn up the volume of whatever background noise you prefer. I hope, though, that whatever you're playing stays all through the night, because the louder it is when you fall asleep, the worse it will be when that slight noise brings you back awake. My advice is just to get used to it, as long as you can at first. It should get easier and easier, as long as you're ignoring it the whole time, that is. See, as I said before, you can listen to the loud noises because either they want you to hear them or you want to hear them. But these noises, the one that you should ignore, are the opposite. They don't want you to hear them, and you definitely don't want to hear them. Because if they know you heard, things get worse. The first time you bolt up in bed, panting and wildly swinging your head around for the source of the noise, they'll know. The next night, the noise you heard, just barely on the edge of your hearing, will be closer. I know, because this is an easy mistake to make, especially the first time I did. I wish more than anything that I hadn't. You can keep trying to ignore it at that point, sure, but it would be so much harder, because each night the noise gets closer. Instead of those loose floorboards outside your room, noise may change. Was that your door hinge squeaking last night? You could have sworn that you locked your bedroom door before you went to bed, so it can't be. Whatever you hear, though, you have to keep ignoring it. Do not roll over to check the door. The next night, the sound will be closer still. Was that the door again? Or was that the sound of floorboards squeaking inside your room? Maybe it was both. Just keep ignoring the noise. Try to go back to sleep if you can. Keep your videos or your music playing like you've done for so many more nights. Enjoy the sleep you get if you're able to, because the noise gets closer each night. Sleep is going to become harder and harder until you're sure the noise was no longer the floorboard, but the creaking of your bed frame. Do not roll over. Keep ignoring the noises. Whatever you do, keep ignoring them. Don't do what I did. Because the first time I heard the noise from my bed frame, I couldn't help myself. I sat up and stared around the room. Mercifully, the room was empty. That night. The next night I woke up not to a noise, but a sensation. The sensation of someone sliding in the bed next to me. I lay there trying not to move a muscle, hoping beyond hope that it was just my imagination. That was a sleepless night. The day after, I felt something pull its body close to me, close enough that I woke in a monstrous parody of a lover's embrace. I know that one of these nights I'm going to be too tired, which makes sense, as I barely sleep, but one night I'll be too tired to keep ignoring it. I'll be jerked on my restless sleep, screaming, or worse. I'll thrash and turn around to see whatever it is that now pulls me closer each night. And this time, I don't think that the room will be empty. It knows that I know. So please, whatever you do, ignore that noise you hear at night, because it can get so much worse.